Step 1 was choosing what you're gonna grow, right? Step 2 is creating your planting calendar. So now I've got this planting calendar, it's going through the whole season. I put in my succession plantings. Step 3 is gonna be laying it all out. But I wanna show you, just before I do that, I'm gonna sort these by the harvesting date and check out this cascade of harvest coming down through the whole season. Yeah, this is gonna be great. Cannot wait to see how much we can harvest off of these. Hey everyone, it's week number 2 of the Great Garden Challenge, where we're seeing how much food we can grow in this 15 by 20 foot garden space over the course of an entire season. Put a dollar figure on it and you get a chance to guess how much you think that we're gonna grow, and whoever gets the closest is going to win the ultimate garden prize, including $500 of free seeds, a free Birdie's raised garden bed, and free lifetime access to the Seedtime garden planner. It's kind of crazy. So last week, we started out with some of the preliminaries, which is like figuring out where this garden is gonna grow and getting a plant stand set up so we could get started with our starts, and also started some lettuce starts. But the fun thing was that you all got to decide where we were going to plant this. Was it gonna be in the hoop house behind me here or over at my dad's place? So, do you wanna know what the answer was? Coming right up. But just before that, quick reminder that during this series, we are also hosting a little fundraiser to help lift families out of poverty into an abundant life. We're supporting an organization called Farm Stew that teaches and equips and trains people, including teaching them how to grow their own food and even sell that food to the community. And we're raising funds to lift 100 new families from poverty into an abundant life. And you can check out the link down below to see all of the information about that. In fact, anyone who donates $1,000 or more is gonna trigger a Bonanza giveaway that's gonna go to everyone who guesses how much food we're gonna grow. There's a link down in the description for that as well. Everything's down in the description, just go check out all the links. Anyways, when that Bonanza giveaway is triggered, we're gonna do a drawing for a random draw from everyone who has signed up. It's gonna be a lot of fun, and a huge thank you to all of you who have donated already. In fact, one of the ways that you can give is by subscribing to this channel, because during this entire series, for every 100 people that subscribe to the channel, we're gonna give $1 to the fund as well. So go subscribe, hit that bell icon so you're notified of all the videos. And now, were you wondering where this garden is going to go? The answer is not in the hoop house behind me, but over at my dad's. It was absolutely overwhelming. So many people outside. And you know, to be honest, we kind of guessed that would probably be what you all wanted. And I think it's gonna be really fun, because you're gonna see it from the ground, from scratch, where we break ground. Coming up in next week's video, you're gonna see us breaking the ground, getting the garden site prepared, and hopefully getting some starts in the ground as well, because we gotta get this thing on the road, get going, right? So lots of fun stuff coming up. However, this week, the big focus has been on creating a succession plan in our garden, figuring out how we're going to set up all of the crop plantings throughout the whole season, and what's gonna come in and go out, and what's gonna replace the stuff that was in there. And so I've spent a good amount of time walking through the whole season and creating a succession plan. So let's jump on over to the computer and I'll walk you through that whole process. Okay, here comes the fun part, because I'm gonna basically let you look over my shoulder as we plan out this entire garden season from start to finish, with succession plantings going through the whole season. And I'm gonna be using the Seedtime garden planner. It makes it really easy to visualize when to seed, when to harvest, set up all those successions. If you happen to not have a Seedtime account and you want to check it out, we'll drop a link down below where you can grab your own free Seedtime account and start doing this with your own garden. And we're going to walk you through what we call our 3-step garden planning formula. It basically just takes the planning process in 3 simple steps, and at the end, we should have an entire succession plan built out where I can just follow a checklist through the whole season. And of course, stuff's gonna happen and we'll make adjustments along the way, but we should be able to come up with a pretty robust plan. So, you ready? Let's jump on and do this here. Okay, so the very first step in the 3-step garden planning formula is to choose what crops you're gonna grow. Now, like we listed in the last video, I'm using our plug and play garden plan here. So I've got a bunch of crops here, and inside Seedtime, down at the bottom right-hand side, there's this little toolbox button. And this is a great little planning worksheet that can help you stay organized as you're going through the planning process. I'm gonna click on that, click select crops. By the way, you can put in the number of adults and number of kids that you're gonna be growing for. But first of all, I'm just gonna click this drop-down menu, and we're gonna start punching in the crops that we're gonna grow in this garden. Lettuce, cabbage, broccoli, and I'll just punch them all in. Okay, so I've got them punched in here. We're gonna click save, and it's going to create a whole little planning spreadsheet here that's gonna help me stay on track through the whole process. On the left-hand side, you're gonna see this is my list of crops to grow. This next column here is, do I have the seeds ordered or do I have them already? Next up is a column where I can mark whether I've added it to my calendar already or not. We did this the other week, so I'm gonna go ahead and mark all of these off as added to the calendar. Yeah, we got our first steps done. I'll come back and fill in some more of the do I have them already or not when I actually go through my seeds. So this first step is choosing what we're gonna grow, right? And with each of these, we suggest actually finding and figuring out what specific varieties you're gonna grow of those. You can add the notes to them, like with basil here, you could add a note and say, I'm gonna be growing Genovese basil, and just keep that for reference. And that can be helpful when you're ordering the seeds or when you're adding them directly in Seedtime. So that's step number one, get your whole crop list plugged in here. The next step is setting up your planting calendar. So I'm gonna take all of these crops and we're gonna go through them one by one and figure out, okay, how many succession plantings do we want of these? So I'm gonna start off right at the top here and just work my way down through these crops. So the first one here is basil, and I am going to add a succession of basil, except I'm gonna throw that succession of basil in as a fall planting. So let's change this to fall winter here and schedule that in. And then we'll have some nice harvests in the beginning of the summer. We'll have some nice harvests at the end of the summer. I don't know if we want fresh basil all summer long. I have to check with my wife on that. All right, let's move on to beets here. And by the way, you can search and filter the crop down. I'm gonna filter it down just to beets. I could do a succession of beets. Beets aren't our #1 favorite crop that we eat a ton of, but I'll go ahead and put a succession in here just in case. I'm gonna also add a duplicate here. We're going to throw this one in as a fall winter planting as well, schedule, and so now we've got some successions in the spring and a fall winter down there. Let's go to broccoli. I am not going to do a succession planting in the spring. It just really pushes it a little bit too much into the summer here. So I'm gonna duplicate this out and we're gonna throw broccoli down into the fall-winter and schedule it. By the way, when you're doing this, you'll find this setting to switch the season under the seeding task. So whether it's direct seeding or seeding inside here, you find it under the seeding task, you'll change the season here. Click schedule, and it's gonna drop it in for a fall planting of broccoli. And ultimately, I'll come in and choose the specific variety of broccoli, and that will make a difference as well, because the days to maturity can change depending on what variety it is. And so we'll fine tune the whole plan with those varieties when we get those all picked out a little bit closer. Let's do cabbage here as well. Cabbage, I'm also going to duplicate out and throw in a fall planting. Cabbage, schedule that in. So we've got spring and fall. Now, cucumbers are an interesting one because here in our location, we're kind of in the hotter south climates, and we can have increased disease pressure with cucumbers. And so one thing that we can do is we can do succession plantings of cucumbers through the summer. So I'm gonna throw some succession plantings in. I may or may not need to do the succession plantings depending on how well our cucumbers are growing. If the soil's doing really great and they're super healthy. We've had really fantastic harvests of cucumbers through long periods of the summer, but I'm gonna throw these successions in just in case. Let's go down to dill. So I'm going to take my dill. We're gonna put a fall winter planting of dill in here as well. Okay, green beans, bush green beans and pole green beans. I kind of like the idea of doing pole green beans this time. So I'm gonna change this out to a pole green bean. Let's just see how this goes. You can harvest pole green beans over a longer period of time than bush green beans. So we can space the succession plantings out a little bit further, but we're gonna put those in just going straight through the season, and they're gonna come in and out with the peas in the bed with the peas. So we'll see how this works when we get them into the layout. Next up is kale. Let's duplicate it out. Then we got lettuce. One of my goals is to get succession plantings of lettuce straight through the summer. Some of the lettuce that we are growing right now is more like 55 days to 60 days. We will also check and see, we'll wanna pick some specific varieties that are really heat tolerant, and they may grow a little bit faster in the middle of the summer. Okay, as we come into the more warm season, I'm gonna pull these lettuces in a little bit more to like a 45-day lettuce, and because I think they're gonna grow a little bit faster in the middle of the summer. So I'm going to add these in, and I'm also speeding up the transplant time. So it's just a few weeks to transplant. And I'm gonna add successions straight through the summer. We'll see what happens. We'll adjust these as we go along, okay? So if they take longer, like we'll just adjust all of the successions after them, and we'll see if we can grow lettuce all summer long. Okay, onions is an interesting one. I am not gonna be growing regular bulb onions right now, so it's gonna be more like a bunching onion. So I'm gonna adjust some of the parameters. We're gonna seed them more like right now, transplanting them probably about 4 weeks. And days to maturity for bunching onions is gonna be more like 65 days from seeding. We'll adjust this down, scoot the seeding to about now, and harvest those bunching onions in a little bit. Now we'll do the same thing in the fall. Gonna add a succession of that, and let's move it to a fall planting. I'm gonna go through all the rest of the crops, putting in succession plantings here. Step 1 was choosing what you're gonna grow, right? Step 2 is creating your planting calendar. So now I've got this planting calendar, it's going through the whole season. I put in my succession plantings. Step 3 is gonna be laying it all out. But I wanna show you, just before I do that, I'm gonna sort these by the harvesting date and check out this cascade of harvest coming down through the whole season. Yeah, this is gonna be great. Cannot wait to see how much we can harvest off of these. All right, and as we go through the layout, we're gonna probably see places that we can put in more crops as they open up. So this is gonna be fun. So I'm gonna come over here to Seedtime layout, and you'll see that I already added in one bed, but that's gonna change, and we're gonna make this really pretty. So number 1 is I'm gonna make the background grid a lot bigger. So let's do it like 200 by 200 feet. I'll move this bed down here. And then I'm just gonna have a little bit of fun with you and build a little house and some trees and context. I know this is not gonna be like the actual context around this garden bed, but it's always more fun when things look pretty. So I'm gonna take these landmarks here, and I'm gonna add in some rectangles, and I'm gonna just build out a house here with you. Okay, so now I have a house, got some trees in, and I can group these together. It's gonna group them together in the layers panel here, and we'll name it house. And then I could move it all together. Do the same thing with the trees here, group those. All right. So next up is adding planting locations, and I'm gonna add just some example locations down here for like some flower beds. And you'll notice that just like with the landmarks, we can come in and customize these. So I'm gonna make these beds 2.5 feet wide, and I'm gonna customize it. So that's 2.5 feet. You can add little points on them here like this. I could also add some little like potting containers on the porch. I'm not gonna be using these in this garden, but just as an example. All right, so I'm gonna come over and actually make our garden beds. Now these are going to be 20-foot wide beds. I have one here already by 2.5 feet, and we're gonna duplicate these out. We're gonna put about a foot in between them, and then I'm gonna name these beds. Bed 1, maybe bed 2. Okay, so I've got our 4 beds. I'm gonna select them all and group them, name them garden beds. Okay, so now we have just a little bit prettier space to work with. This is gonna be fun, okay? So I made a little path that goes around here. Now we're ready to actually start putting these crops in. And like I said before, I had thrown some in here, but I'm gonna basically start over because we're gonna be looking at these succession plantings through the whole season as well. So I'm gonna pull up my crop list, and the way that I like to do this is I like to, number 1, turn off all tasks that are not related to the time that the crop is going to be in the ground. So basically, I only want to see the direct seeding, the transplanting, and the harvesting times, which those have to be on. Those are what marks when the plant is gonna start and when it's gonna end. And then Seedtime has this little green slider that we can travel through time. So I've got the filter down for transplant and harvest, and then I wanna sort the plantings by, not the harvest date, but by the in-ground date. When are these crops going to be growing in the ground? And the way that I'm gonna do this is I'm gonna walk through my season step by step as if the plants were going in the ground. So we're gonna start here with parsley, and parsley is gonna go down in our 3rd bed down. I'm gonna turn off snap to grid so it's not quite as annoying. As we go through, we might shift things back and forth depending on how tall they are. They're gonna shade each other out type scenario. Next up, I'm going to shift forward and we have a bunch of crops. Beets and carrots, those are gonna go in the next bed down. We can go ahead and start putting those in. So beets are gonna go down here, and I'm gonna actually switch these. I'm gonna click on the beets here and switch the layout to be square on them. We don't eat a ton of beets and we don't eat a ton of carrots. Peas are going in, those are gonna go in this bottom bed here. We're gonna fill up about half of the bed, the Swiss chard in there as well. So we've got all of those. By the way, once it's put in a location, it's gonna list the location right next to the name so you can see which ones are listed. The other thing is you can filter by anything without a location or without a group here. Okay, let's move forward. I'm gonna drop some cilantro in down here next to my parsley, some dill. It's working good because that dill is going to be a little bit, adjust the spacing on that a little. Row spacing, let's do it at 8. And then radishes. Now I know I have a successions of radishes, so I'm going to filter down to those. A couple weeks later, got another succession of radishes, we'll put that in there. Okay, next up we have onions and a succession of lettuce coming in. You need a good amount of onions. Lettuce number 2, put in like this. Got my pole green beans coming in down here. Okay, we're gonna put in a pepper here. Actually, put in squash right on the edge here. Gonna put in a couple pepper plants here, tomatoes, and cucumber. Here we go. Now with the cucumbers, we're gonna do those succession plantings of cucumbers actually, right? So I want several cucumber plants. I want several pepper plants. And then I'm gonna fill the rest of the bed up here with tomatoes. See, how many tomato plants is that? 7 tomato plants. That'd be good. All right, lettuce number 4 can go in up here. You can put in lettuce number 5 here, and lettuce number 6 down here. And now I'm gonna take a quick little moment to congratulate Holly Rogers for winning the living potting mix from last week's video. You might remember we did a little giveaway for anyone who commented under last week's video. I did a random draw, and Holly, congratulations, you are the winner. I left a comment under your comment, replied to it, and let you know how you can claim that potting mix and get it sent to you. And if you would like to win something special this week, we're gonna do another random draw from the comments, and someone is gonna win 1 year of unlimited level access to Seedtime. So you get access to all of the bells and whistles, including the layout planner where you can track your time and space through your entire season like you've been seeing me doing, really maximizing your space, and ultimately what that means is you're going to maximize your yield out of your garden. So leave a comment down below, and I would like to hear from you. Which crop that we are growing this year do you think is going to be the highest dollar value crop? Okay, so tomatoes, lettuce, kale, cucumbers, radishes, carrots. You've seen my plan here in this video, and let me know which crop do you think is going to be the highest dollar value, and you'll have a chance at winning 1 year of unlimited level access to Seedtime. All right, so I've come through the whole season here, and we've added in these baby greens, some baby lettuce, and some braising mix, which is like Asian greens. And you can see that we were able to get a full harvest, I think, hopefully here in these beds here before the summer crops come in. So we got baby greens here, some baby greens down here. We've got radishes coming in next to the peas. And then I've created a whole cascade of these baby greens coming in and out, companion planted next to my legumes. So I've got some down here by my green beans down here, and then I've got these ones here by the tomatoes, cucumbers, and peppers, and on either side of those, and they just come in and out around those crops here. Now, after planting this out, basically this top bed with the greens and this bed down here with the roots, and both of those end up with a space in the middle of the summer here, about 2 months, where they don't have anything growing. They're basically blank. And so I was showing this to my wife, Natasha, and she had the brilliant idea. It was kind of, I thought it was a little bit crazy at first, but it's maybe a crazy good idea of trying to fit a determinate tomato up here, or trying to fit a tomato at all, but really it would end up being a determinate tomato. So I have tried that here, and you can see that if I put in the tomato here, we are able to get that tomato in. Actually, I'm just going to filter down to bed number 1, and we're going to do broccoli, cabbage, because those are the ones that it really needs to squeeze in between, because we've got this cabbage coming out here, and then we've got tomatoes here. So if I do like a super early, like a bush early grow, it's a short days to maturity, determinate tomato, it's showing me that I could get about 2.5 weeks, maybe 3 weeks of harvest before I got to put in my fall plantings of broccoli and cabbage to get them in early enough to harvest the end of October. So what I'm going to try doing is actually moving these lettuces down here, down into this bed with the roots and the herbs. And I have this idea of putting a cattle panel arch trellis between the tomatoes and the cucumbers here and the green beans, and earlier in the spring it's peas down here. And if we can get those to grow up over that arch, it could help shade our lettuce as well in the heat of the summer. So I'm going to work on that, and we'll see what we can figure out. Okay, so here is version 1, and I'm sure there's going to be iterations on this, but I'm going to walk you through just week by week through the season. And what I've tried to do is go through each bed basically and see, can we keep this in crops as much as possible through the season. So we've got our parsley coming in here, and it's going to be hopefully shaded by a trellis, and so hopefully we'll be able to harvest it most of the summer. We'll probably do like a flat leaf parsley. Then we have carrots and beets that come in, and peas and cabbage and broccoli and kale and Swiss chard. You can see lettuce coming in here. We have a whole bunch of crops that come in really close together here as we fill this out. And like I was mentioning before, we were able to put in some baby green plantings here ahead of when the summer crops come in. So we're going to keep moving forward. We've got onions coming in down here, and we have the radishes next to the peas. Going to keep moving forward week by week here. Those are going to grow for a little while, and our lettuces are coming in succession. So we've got lettuce 1, lettuce 2, lettuce 3. keep moving forward, and we're pulling out our baby greens. We're starting to replace them with some summer crops here, and basil's coming in where this little baby lettuce was growing here. As these radishes are harvested out, we're going to be putting baby greens in their place as well. And we are putting baby greens on either side of the summer crops here, and those are going to rotate around between like baby lettuce and a braising mix, maybe some baby arugula as well. I'm going to keep moving forward. Again, you can notice these lettuces are coming in and out. So this is now lettuce number 4. Number 5 is going to come in here, and actually wrong. Number 5 is not going to come in here. Number 5 is going to come down here, because what we're going to end up doing is I'm hoping we're going to try, at least I'd like to try and do some kind of arch trellis between these two and let the tomatoes come up and the green beans come up on either side and help shade the lettuce in the summer here. So we're going to be putting that down there. We're going to move it forward, and lettuce 6 is going to come down there. You can see this bed is clearing out as we wrap up some of those spring crops, and we are going to put in some determinate tomatoes. At least we're going to try and see if we can get a harvest in the middle of the summer. It's a fast, short little period that we got to get these tomatoes in here. And you'll notice that I let them overlap here a little bit, and that's because these tomatoes are going to be small, the lettuce is short. We can probably just transplant right down in between some of that lettuce if we need to, if the lettuce is going a little bit longer. We're going to keep on coming forward, and you'll notice that as these onions come out, I'm dropping another baby braising greens mix down here. We're going to be doing lots of baby greens through here, through the summer, all season long, really. I'm going to drop another baby lettuce, and you'll see that we've got baby greens on either side of the tomatoes, the determinate tomatoes up here as well. So now our lettuces are doing a rotation down here. 6, 7, 8 is going to come drop back in here, right there. And we're going to keep moving forward. We're rotating out those baby greens. As lettuce number 7 comes out, we're putting in another braising mix down here. We're trying to keep these garden beds as filled with crops as possible. See how much we can grow out of this. And it keeps the soil healthier at the same time. So then lettuce number 10, I'm going to drop it in up here because we're going to start rotating these back up into this top bed, because we're going to have more fall crops coming in down here with carrots and beets, etc. again as a fall crop. So we're going to rotate our lettuce rotation back up here again. And again, we should be able to transplant next to the baby greens and in between the tomatoes there, and these baby greens are going to come out not too much longer. As we come into August here, we're going to be dropping in some carrots for fall planting of carrots. You're going to see some fall plantings of herbs down here, some cilantro coming in. We have another succession of lettuce coming up here in bed number 1. And all of a sudden, we are starting to, where our tomatoes are going to have to come out. We may be able to transplant some of these in while we're finishing up some of those tomatoes, but we've got cabbage, broccoli, Swiss chard coming in, and we had our onions come in down here. We're filling it in with kale, and then we've got radishes and parsley coming down here. Now, one thing is, as I come to the end of October, I'm going to need to look at kind of my last few weeks here. Is there anything I can do in this empty space here? And I'm just noticing in this run through as well, like we've got these green beans that come out here, and we've got a baby lettuce mix here that goes in around the same time. So I could fill that in there, and let's see how that works. So we've got the green beans come out, and boom, we can fill that in with the baby lettuce mix. So as you can see, that's what you want to do, is just go through bed by bed and see, okay, how can I maximize this space? I've done a lot of rearranging of crops in the order that they come into these beds, just to try and make it as logical as possible. And I had to rearrange some so that I could get my lettuce down here, because I want it to be shaded out by the kale, right, in the middle of the summer here. So my basil originally was over here. Well, I pulled it back over here. So we walked through the season, and I'm excited. This is going to be fun. Now that we have version number 1, this is what we're going to work off of, and stuff's going to happen, and it's probably going to change and adjust as we go through the season. That's all cool. We'll be able to do that easily here in the Seedtime platform. Now, the very cool thing is that once it's built out here, now I've got my task list, and I can just go through my task list on a daily or weekly basis. And in here, it has the crop, it has the amount that needs to be transplanted or seeded or whatever it is, the bed it's gonna go in. A lot of these here that are overdue, I'm gonna actually be purchasing transplants for them. And so we are going to start some of our own tomatoes and peppers, which already a little behind on, so I got to get going and doing that ASAP. And now we're going to come full circle back around to our 3-step garden planning formula. So step number 1 was choose what you're going to grow, right? So we came down to the planning worksheet here, put in all of the crops that we wanted to grow. Step number 2 was add them to your calendar, and I actually just kind of went straight into also doing succession plantings, whether I've added or skipped them. So I could come down and mark these all as complete because I have done that for all of these crops as well. Step number 3 is choosing where you're going to grow and laying out your garden plan, which is what we just did in the layout planner. And so these check marks here are for when I figured out where broccoli is going to go in the plan, etc. I can go mark it off, and so I can mark all of these off as completed as well. Now you could do that one by one as you go and add them into your plan, etc., and maybe do it a little bit more organized than I just did it, but that's what this is for, to kind of help keep you on track and know what you've added, what needs to still go into your plan, etc. Now the next part here is something that I did not use and I'm not really using in this garden plan, but if you wanted to figure out how much to grow for a certain number of people, or you know how much you eat and you want to grow enough crops for that amount, you can come over to the growing calculator here, and this is super powerful. So this growing calculator calculates based on the number of adults and children you put in here. You click save, it will change and give you suggested amounts to grow of each of these crops for fresh eating and for storage in the number of pounds. Now, quick caveat here, everybody eats differently. You may eat way more snap beans than we do, for example, or you may eat way less, right? You may say, hey, I don't really want to eat any for storage, or maybe I just want 20 pounds for storage. So anything that is underlined with green, you can come in and edit and change these values, and it will change the total number of pounds that you want to grow. In the next column here, it will tell you the number of feet or row per bed that you need to grow that crop. So, for example, with the beets here, we've got 33 pounds of beets, and it's going to take about 33 feet of row for those beets. Now, in my garden plan here, let's see, I've got 3 rows of beets in this bed. So what I can do is I can come back to the planner, go to the growing calculator for beets. I can say I have 3 rows in my bed, and it's going to tell me the number of bed feet that I need to reach my goal. If I close this and come back here now, I can click on this and I can see I have 4 feet there. And if I was doing this for the whole year, I could come down to the fall and see I have 4 feet here, so that's 8. So that's getting pretty close to the 11 feet that I would need of actual bed feet. Now, the next column over here is the average harvest per 100 foot. This is, you can see the data sources down at the bottom of this calculator where these are averaged from. But once again, it's editable. So you could come in and you could say, hey, I know that I can get way more, I can get like 150 pounds per 100 foot row of beets, right? So you can edit it and it's gonna adjust how many feet of row or bed that you need. And then there's the plant spacing, which again is adjustable. And then the final column is the total number of plants that you would need to get that. So it's just a tool here that you can come in, that you can use, you can adjust all of these settings to come up with how much space do you need, how much row feet, how much bed feet do you need, how many plants is it gonna be to reach your goals. Then what you could do is you come back to the planning worksheet here, you can import those plant counts, and when you're adding them to your layout, you can see, have I reached the number of plants that I would need to be able to do that. So that is the 3-step garden planning formula in real life for this garden, except of course, like I said, I'm not doing it based on the total number of plants that I want to grow. In this particular case, I'm doing it more on how much can I fit to fill my space, and just ballparking it off of a little bit of,
I'm not just gonna fill the entire bed with carrots because I know that we're not gonna eat that many carrots. So I am kind of spacing them out a little bit based on kind of what we expect to be able to eat or handle, or we'll end up giving away a bunch of food probably as well.
Now, just before we wrap up this video, I thought you all might like to see some of the starts that we started last week. So you ready for this? They are looking great. Check these little guys out. So these are the lettuces that we started last week, and I can't wait to plant them out into our garden. Thanks for watching this video. This is number 2, and we are just getting started. If you haven't watched the first one, go back and watch that. And then coming up next week, you're gonna get to see us actually breaking ground and getting this garden set up and hopefully getting some plants in the ground, because that is what we need to be doing according to our Seedtime plan right now. Otherwise, I would encourage you right now, drop down into the description of this video, and if you haven't yet, put in your guess of how much you think that we're gonna be able to grow dollar-wise in this garden for the chance to win the ultimate garden prize. We already have a bunch of people that have done it. If you haven't, go do that right now. And also make sure to subscribe to this channel, hit that little bell icon so that you get notified when new videos come out, and you're not gonna wanna miss it. This is gonna be a lot of fun because we're gonna be walking through the entire season together. Finally, one last little plug for our fundraiser for Farm Stew. You'll find the link to that in the description below, and any other things that we mentioned in this video. Everything is down in the description below, so go check those things out, and I can't wait to see you next time.